Women over 60. 5 stupid things never do for a man, even if you're madly in love with him.
Welcome to Wise Life After 60. So grateful to have you here. Have you ever given so much of yourself to a man that when the relationship ended, you wondered if there was anything left for you? The ancient philosopher Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And that wisdom applies just as deeply to women. No woman remains free if she hands her power over in the name of love. In today's video, we're revealing 5 things women over 60 should never do for a man, no matter how deeply you care. These are not simple mistakes. They are patterns that quietly erode dignity, dim self-worth, and weaken the very connection you hope to preserve. Before we begin, take a moment to tap that like button and subscribe to Wise Life After 60, where we explore timeless wisdom, reflections on love, and the art of aging with presence and confidence. Now, let's begin with the first truth, a boundary so essential that when it's crossed, even the strongest love begins to lose its foundation. Giving him too many gifts. Thoughtful gestures have their place, but when generosity turns into a pattern of over-giving, it changes the balance of the relationship. A gift given freely can be beautiful, but when you shower a man with presents in the hope of keeping his affection, you teach him to value what you provide instead of who you are. I remember Patricia, a woman in her late 60s, who told me she once spent months trying to prove her love through gifts. She knitted sweaters late into the night, her hands aching, but her heart hopeful. She bought small gadgets he mentioned in passing, tucked little luxuries into his pockets, even surprised him with tickets to events she wasn't particularly interested in, but knew he might enjoy. To her, each gesture was a way of saying, "I see you, I value you, I want you to feel cherished." At first, he seemed delighted. He would smile when he received a package, laugh when she presented something unexpected, even boast to his friends about how thoughtful she was. Patricia told me those moments gave her a rush of reassurance that maybe this was the way to keep love alive. But as the months passed, she noticed something unsettling. His gratitude began to fade. The sparkle in his eyes when she gave him something turned into a quiet expectation. He stopped saying thank you. He started assuming she would always pay for dinners, always bring little tokens, always fill the silence with some new offering. "I realized," Patricia said softly, "that I was no longer giving because I wanted to, but because I was afraid not to. I was trying to purchase his attention when what I really wanted was his heart." That insight was painful, but it was also freeing. She began to see that her gifts, once symbols of affection, had turned into chains that bound her to a role she didn't want, the provider of constant offerings, rather than the partner who was valued for her presence. Her story reflects a timeless truth. The philosopher Seneca once wrote, "A gift consists not in what is done or given, but in the intention of the giver." Patricia's intention was rooted in love, but beneath it was fear, the fear that without tangible proof she might lose him. And fear never inspires respect. A man may accept the gifts you offer, but he cannot admire the desperation behind them. What earns true respect is balance, the ability to give when it flows naturally from joy, and to refrain when giving would be an attempt to buy affection. A woman's presence, her laughter, her wisdom, her companionship, these are gifts that cannot be purchased, and they are the ones that men remember long after the packages are gone. So remember this: a gift cannot create devotion, and love cannot be bought. The greatest gift you can offer a man is not a wrapped package, but your presence, your laughter, your companionship, and the strength of a woman who knows her worth cannot be measured in things.
Abandoned friends and family. Love may feel consuming, especially in its early glow, but when it asks you to sever the bonds that have carried you through decades of life, it becomes less about love and more about control. A partner who truly values you will never ask you to choose between him and the people who shaped your world. Philosopher Aristotle reminded us that man is by nature a social animal. We are not meant to live in isolation, cut off from community and kin. A healthy love strengthens your ties to others. It does not sever them. A man who loves you well will welcome the presence of your family and friends, even if imperfectly, because he knows they are part of who you are. When you abandon those relationships, you risk not only losing them, but also losing yourself. Your friends and family are the keepers of your history, the witnesses of your journey, the ones who hold you when romance falters. To turn away from them is to turn away from the very roots that ground you. So remember, love that requires isolation is not love, it is possession. And possession cannot nourish your soul. The man who deserves you will walk into your circle, not try to erase it. He will understand that a woman over 60 carries a life already rich with bonds, and that by embracing those bonds, he deepens his connection to you. Being a yes woman. Agreeing with everything he says, bending to every request, and silencing your own needs might feel like a way to keep harmony. But in truth, it erodes the very foundation of respect. Men may enjoy compliance in the moment, but over time they lose admiration for the woman who never shows her own mind, her own fire, her own truth. I think of Helen, a woman in her late 60s, who shared with me the story of her second marriage. After the heartbreak of her first husband leaving, she carried a deep fear of abandonment, a fear that whispered to her that if she ever disagreed, if she ever showed too much of herself, history would repeat itself. So when she met someone new, she made an unspoken promise. She would be easy, she would be agreeable, she would never make waves. At first, it felt safe. When he wanted steak for dinner, she nodded, even when she longed for fish. When he suggested watching a Western, she smiled politely, even if she found the story dull. When he brushed off her ideas or interrupted her thoughts, she laughed it away as if it didn't matter. I thought, she confessed to me, her voice trembling with memory, that if I kept saying yes, he would never find a reason to leave. That if I made myself smaller, easier, less demanding, I would finally be loved unconditionally. But what happened was the opposite of what she had hoped. Slowly, the very man she wanted to hold on to began to pull away. He stopped asking her opinion because he already knew what she would say. He stopped planning surprises because she seemed to want nothing. He stopped turning to her for conversation because her voice no longer revealed anything new. Helen said, "One day he looked at me with tired eyes and said, 'I don't even know who you are anymore.'
And the truth was, neither did I. She told me that in that moment, her heart sank not because he was frustrated, but because she realized she had betrayed herself. By erasing her preferences, silencing her opinions, and swallowing her truth, she had become invisible in her own life. She had built the very prison she was living in, believing it was the price of love. Her story reflects a timeless lesson. The philosopher Emerson once wrote, "To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment." In love, this truth is magnified. When a woman hides her voice to keep a man, she does not keep him, she loses herself. And when a man cannot see who she really is, he cannot love her in any meaningful way. Being agreeable in small things is part of any relationship, but being agreeable at the cost of your own identity is a quiet surrender of your soul. The strongest relationships are not built on endless agreement, but on the meeting of two distinct spirits who can challenge, inspire, and sharpen each other. So remember, love is not kept alive by constant yeses. It thrives on authenticity, on the courage to say, "This is who I am, and this is what I believe." A man may not always like your honesty, but if he respects you, he will value it far more than compliance.
Not prioritizing self-care and personal growth. There is a quiet but dangerous mistake many women make in love, and it is not about how they treat him, it is about how they forget to treat themselves. Too often, women over 60 carry decades of responsibility, raising children, caring for aging parents, supporting a partner's ambitions, keeping a household alive. Somewhere along the way, they learn to place everyone else's needs before their own, believing that love means sacrifice. But here's the truth. When you stop prioritizing your self-care and your growth, love itself begins to wither because you are giving from a cup that has already run dry. Philosopher Seneca once wrote, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." This wisdom matters deeply in love after 60, because when you invest in yourself, whether through health, creativity, or spiritual growth, you do not just nurture your own soul, you give your partner a reason to keep falling in love with you anew. When you invest in yourself, whether through nurturing your health, feeding your creativity, deepening your wisdom, or pursuing a new passion, you become more than a companion. You become an inspiration. A woman who tends to her inner world with the same care she once tended to her children, her family, and her work becomes a mirror of vitality. She shows that dignity and beauty are not tied to youth, but to the courage of refusing to settle into stagnation. To neglect your self-care and growth is to slowly trade away the very essence that makes love after 60 so extraordinary. The richness of experience, the layers of wisdom, the quiet confidence of someone who knows who she is and continues to embrace becoming more. But when you place your well-being at the center, when you cultivate your mind, body, and soul with the reverence they deserve, you are not only honoring yourself, you are keeping the flame of attraction burning. For a man, there is nothing more captivating than a woman who shows him day after day that she still has depths to reveal and horizons yet to touch. Your vitality is not only your gift to yourself, it is your gift to love itself. By investing in your wholeness, you give your partner a reason to keep falling in love with you, not once, not twice, but over and over again across the seasons of life. And if this message resonates with you, share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear how you've chosen to nurture yourself while keeping love alive after 60. Changing your appearance to please a man. Many women, even in their later years, feel the temptation to dye their hair because he prefers blondes, to hide their wrinkles because he comments on youth, to dress in ways that make them uncomfortable just to catch his eye. But when you reshape your outer self at the expense of your inner comfort, you are not showing love. You are erasing authenticity. A man may notice the change at first, but over time, he begins to sense the quiet loss beneath it. the disappearance of the woman who once stood confidently in her own skin. I remember a conversation with Julia, a widow in her mid-60s, who had started dating again after many years. The man she saw often hinted that she should brighten up her wardrobe or do something younger with her hair. Out of fear of losing him, Julia followed his suggestions. She changed her clothes, altered her hairstyle, even bought makeup she had never used before. At first, he complimented her, but Julia confessed that every time she looked in the mirror, she saw less of herself. She told me that he wasn't falling in love with me. He was falling in love with a version of me I had created to please him. And the more I changed, the less connected I felt to myself. That relationship didn't last, but Julia walked away with a powerful truth. Love built on disguise cannot endure. Philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment." This wisdom is never more vital than in love after 60, because at this stage of life, authenticity is your greatest beauty. The lines on your face carry stories of survival, laughter, and resilience. The hair you wear, the clothes you choose, the way you carry yourself, these are not flaws to erase, but expressions of a woman who has lived fully and continues to stand tall in her truth. The right man is not searching for someone who looks younger. He is searching for someone who radiates self-respect, presence, and depth. Never trade away your authenticity to win affection, because the affection you win that way is fragile and fleeting. Instead, let your true self shine, and you will draw toward you the kind of man who sees your natural presence as irresistible. And if you've ever felt pressured to change who you are on the outside to gain love, let this be your reminder: the most lasting attraction comes from within.
Let's take a moment to remember the 5 truths we've uncovered together. Never give a man endless gifts as if love must be purchased. Never abandon your friends and family in the name of romance. Never become a yes woman. Never neglect your self-care and personal growth. And never change your appearance just to meet his preferences. The women we admire most remind us that love after 60 is not about shrinking to fit someone else's vision, but about expanding into the fullness of who we already are. Relationships that thrive at this stage of life are built on authenticity, mutual respect, and the courage to honor our own worth. Before you go, take a moment to tap that like button and subscribe to Wise Life After 60, where we share timeless wisdom on love, aging, and living with confidence and dignity. Thank you for spending this time with me, and see you again in the next video.